Check, check. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2.
Is everybody ready? Okay. So good afternoon. Today we're going to provide a brief statement regarding the shooting that occurred yesterday on Cleveland's west side. Just a quick couple of introductions for you. I'm Chief Todd, Chief of the Cleveland Division of Police. We have Deputy Chief Jared Schlott, Deputy Chief Ollie Pillow, Sheriff Grice from the Medina County Sheriffs, Captain Conwell from the Medina County Sheriffs, and Deputy Chief Morris, So yesterday, April 17th, the Cleveland Division of Police Use of Force Investigation Team was called to respond to a critical firearms discharge outside 2150 West 117th. Preliminary results of the investigation revealed the officers assigned to Homeland Security Investigations Ohio Organized Crime Investigations Commission Task Force were conducting a narcotics investigation at this location. At approximately 4:29 p.m., they encountered a suspect who produced a knife, prompting two officers to discharge their service weapons. Both involved officers are employed by the Medina County Sheriff's Department. The suspect, an adult male, has been identified by the Cuyahoga County Medical Examiner's Office as 47-year-old Andre Martin of Garfield Heights. As with all use of force investigations involving outside agencies, the Cleveland Division of Police Use of Force Investigation Team is leading this investigation with the cooperation of HSI and the Medina County Sheriff's Office Sheriff Grice. Additional information will be released as the investigation progresses. So at this time, if you have questions specific, we'll address those. Sure.
Can you describe how Andre Martin came into contact with the officers and how did it end up at the Staples parking lot?
So this is still preliminary in the investigation. So we are still gathering all information and related video. So with that, the information we have is they were conducting our narcotics investigation when they encountered the suspect. And this is, like I said, the suspect produced a knife.
So we've been told that it was a sting operation. Mm-hmm. Can you describe how the sting operation would have worked and they would have come into contact with him?
So we're still pretty early on, and the Division of Police was not the primary on this investigation. So the results for that is going to be part of our investigation. As we get more, we will release that.
What criteria would you use to determine if the shooting was justifiable?
So with everything, we conduct our investigations, and then we confer with the normally with the county prosecutor to determine if it is a justified use of force.
Can you talk about what that criteria would be?
So with anything, it's about constitutionality of the investigation. And what they do is we present all the information, we gather the facts, the statements, and the video, and our investigators will then take that information and they will take it to the prosecutor's office. They will, usually it's a timely process. Once they review everything, they make that determination.
For you or the sheriff, can you describe what this task force and also Homeland Security, what they are doing in the city of Cleveland, and what was the nature of their work?
So I'm not going to talk about their nature of the work, but I can tell you that Cleveland also is a part of several task force operations with, at the state, federal, and local. And what we do is we partner with our federal law enforcement agencies to conduct higher level investigations. And even with our investigations, sometimes that takes us outside of the city boundaries. So I'm sure with this investigation, it's similar.
Do the officers involved in the task force and Homeland Security investigations, do they have to notify Cleveland Police that they're within the city limits and what the nature of their work is going to be?
So I'm not sure at this time if any notifications were made to the city.
Are you identifying the deputies and their backgrounds?
No.
No.
What can you tell us about Andre Martin?
Okay, right now I don't have a lot of information. We just received the results back from the medical examiner's office, so at this time we're just releasing his name and age.
What is the current status of the deputies?
They're on the paid administrative leave.
Got it, got it. So some people on social media, as they do, are suggesting that if someone is armed with a knife, that tasers can be used. What is your reaction to that, Chief and Sheriff?
So I am not going to speak on how an officer feels at a situation. That is part of the ongoing investigation, and they will answer with the investigators, so I can't speak on their feelings on that.
When will the body camera be released, and is there surveillance video as well?
So we're going to work to have that released early next week, and we will get that out to everyone.
You said there was an investigation, the task force was investigating this location. By location, do you mean the Staples, or what location were they investigating?
So again, this is an HSI task force operation, so that's part of the investigation. I can tell you that their investigation led them to that location. So they were there, conducting their investigation. Still, it's really early on, so as more develops throughout this, we can release more information.
Chief, can you describe the vehicles of the officers and of Mr. Martin? And can you also describe the uniforms worn by the officers, if they were wearing uniforms or if they were plain clothes?
That I do not have the answer for at this time.
Do you know that, Sheriff?
Yeah,
Okay, do you mind stepping
Sure.
up to the mic?
oh, sorry.
That's okay.
Our deputies were in plain clothes, but with outer vests. It clearly identified them as law enforcement.
Can you describe their vehicle, and can someone please describe Mr. Martin's vehicle?
Our deputy's vehicle is an unmarked vehicle. I don't know about the suspect.
Was that a minivan or?
I won't get into what their undercover cars are.
Well, there were two vehicles there, that's why we're trying to discern.
Sure. We did have two separate vehicles there.
Okay. Do you know what Mr. Martin was driving?
At this time, I do not have that
So
answer.
there was a Jeep there?
I don't have the answer
Okay.
to that.
Do you know how many shots were fired?
At this time, that's part of the investigation, so we're not going to share that information at this time.
Can you describe the knife and where it was found at the scene?
Again, this is still early on in the investigation, so as things progress, we will share that information.
Were there any Cleveland police officers there at the time of the shooting?
From what I understand, we had officers who were in that area that were not an active part of the investigation, but that were, on the scene when it occurred.
So, Chief, in terms of Homeland Security being involved in an investigation within the city and then an organized crime task force within the city, can you describe the scope of investigations that they would have that would be outside of what Cleveland Police would normally do?
So as you know, with any investigation, and I'm not going to speak specific to this one, we have small scale and we have large scale. So, a lot of what our frontline officers do are the small scale investigations about drug activity. And then when you get into those larger scale investigations, a lot of times those are our narcotics officers or in partnership with our task forces.
Are you able to say, was this Martin a source or a suspect they were meeting in the parking lot?
At this time, we can't release that information until the investigation gets a little further on.
Are you able to say whether it ended in the parking lot or that's where they engaged with them?
So just preliminarily, this is the only part of the crime scene that we have identified.
So do we know if they followed him in there or they were meeting him there or?
Again, this is still early on in the investigation, so at this time, we're not going to release any additional information.
Sheriff, can
Can
you
you speak to the
talk
purpose
about
of
the
this task
impact?
force here?
Go ahead.
What's
Can you
that?
speak to the purpose of this task force that you all have initiated in Ohio?
So each task force is a little independent in operations. A lot of it is about large-scale drug operations. So I don't know specifically what they were working on in this investigation, but a lot of our task forces are related to, large-scale drug trafficking.
Sheriff, can you talk about the decision to be involved in the organized crime task force and the nature of the work that your deputies do?
This task force has been at least 2 years, at least maybe longer, and it's, again, as the chief said, it is about bulk narcotics. So it's focused on Cuyahoga County and Medina County. So we're a partner in that, and that's why we were up here.
So one of the things that folks were talking about yesterday is the fact that Homeland Security is involved, that perhaps it has something to do with trying to stem the tide of fentanyl being trafficked. Can you comment on that?
Again, it's something, the details of the investigation, we're not going to release as far as what they were investigating for this in particular matter. But our goal in policing and in these task force operations is to get that, to fentanyl, all of those drugs off the street. And sometimes, our investigations lead us to bigger organized crime that we're looking at. And again, the whole purpose of all of this is in partnerships to make the community safer.
We got a couple more questions.
When it comes to deadly forces with this task force, what is the policy as it relates?
So as far as, I could just talk about Cleveland's policy. So any deadly force incident involving an outside agency is investigated by our force investigation team. So this is, the practice of this and all other investigations. So we will be the primary investigators for this use of force investigation.
Sheriff, can you talk about the impact this had? I saw several of your deputies there that seemed to be very upset. Can you talk about the impact on your folks that were involved?
Well, it's not just specific to our deputies, because I think it's universal across the board for any law enforcement officer. No one ever wants to be put in this position. No one wants to do this, and it's such a small number. And I think a lot of times people think this is a regular occurrence, and it's not, thankfully. And thankfully, our officers and deputies were safe. That's very critical to us, for sure.
Another part is that that's a very busy area. A lot of people shop. There's a lot of foot traffic and vehicular traffic. Can you talk about the fact that nobody else was hurt, even though there was gunfire?
Yeah, so there was no one else was injured as a result of this incident that occurred yesterday, and it had very minimal impact on the community or the operations of the people who live in the area and the businesses that were operating.
Last question? Good. All right.